We are now here with Hex Mortis. We're going to talk to him a little bit about his contributions to Iron City Chronicles. What do you do for a living?
What do I do for a living? I build giant robots and blow up zombie heads. That's pretty much it.
Could you repeat that, sir?
Blow up zombie heads and build giant robots. Most of the stuff that we do is single commission contracts that come from the cosplayer demographic. Some of the stuff we've done in recent has started to span into TV production and film production, which we're pretty excited about. But for the most part, we just build crazy stuff all day. One day you're building a gun blade from Final Fantasy. The next day you're doing a scorpion mask. So, pretty eclectic.
Awesome. We approached you about props for the Iron City Chronicles. What drew you in after we contacted you?
The noir, the darkness of it. It's cybernetic dude, quasi-future, very much a Blade Runner universe. Augmenting cybernetics, nanotech, very commonplace. Always been very fascinated with that type of universe, that sort of society that's completely become sanguine and joined with the advent of cyber technology, and it's become commonplace where it's come to the point where some people who are augmented at one point, they fall by the wayside. They have to find jobs. They have to do other things. And the military aspect of Joe being ex-military and just kind of being a discard, like a cat who had, was given all these awesome gifts and had to basically make a living for himself in the initial designs and what they approached me with. I found it to be a very intriguing take on a cyberpunk world. So I lent him my axe.
Awesome. What have you contributed to the project so far, and what will you be contributing in the future?
So far, we took initial prototype of Joe's helmet, the initial armor configuration that he had from the base concept and birthing from the project. I mean, just in the sense of concept art. Took the base prototype, remolded it, and we eventually were able to make multiple helmets with different paint schemes and possible uses, where it was very similar to Batman's belt, whereas a utility belt, Joe had a different helmet for every occasion. If he was fighting a dump truck robot that completely went berserk because its AI became self-aware, he had an armored-out helmet that he would be able to take someone toe-to-toe and protect, obviously, the most important thing, his brain. Whereas some of the other helmets that he would use to pursue a criminal down in the corroded sewers underneath the city was much more, the metals started to be eaten away, copper's exposed, giving him different faces for a similar job.
Awesome. One term that comes to mind whenever we talk about Hex Mortis is the word brutal. What does brutal mean to you, sir?
Brutal's taken something a step further. It's a buzzword in the music industry. It's been a buzzword since the 80s, but for me, it's kind of a mission statement. There's a way about creating a replica. If you're trying to replicate reality, then it takes the extra mile. You have to put a lot of time, a lot of detail, a lot of painstaking attention to emotion that a certain piece is supposed to evoke, especially if it's used as a prop in a film where the whole thing is based on emotion. You have a few seconds to convey a certain amount of intent for whatever that specific prop is used for. So if you see a ding, a bullet hole, a scratch, your mind starts asking questions. How did they get that? How did it get there? If someone comes straight out the gate like Rinsler, the amazing bodywork that was done in his helmet for Tron, where they're literally walking onto set holding the helmet with gloves, that's completely different, whereas it's supposed to be sanguine, it's supposed to be perfect, it's in the cybernetic world. My world, what I like to lend to things is that it's been beaten, it's been worn. It's like Star Wars. The technology is superior, but there's sand caught in the cracks. There's dings where you've caught a gaffy stick from the left when you were defending a droid that you were fixing out in the middle of nowhere, and with every single smack, every single cut, every bullet hole, you tell a story through props, and so very much how actors can tell a story through their craft. My art, I hope, people see the attention to detail and the desire to tell a story in the likes of cats like Jim Henson and Stan Winston and those guys who pretty much were the first people who got me interested in doing props in the first place.
Awesome. We came down with a big prop in the back of the car, and we brought it to the door, and I said, "Hey, you know what today is?" She said, "The day after St. Patrick's Day." I said, "No, today is Hexmas."
And you pulled a giant robot out of the back of your car. It's been an interesting journey so far to see Joe take on a different personality than when I first met him. At first, he was new. It was like this crazy ideal that this undercover gumshoe, lady in the red dress, lighting a cigarette across the office. What can I do for you, Dane? Like this interesting, very sanguine universe that I was introduced to initially for working on some of the helmet stuff has now metamorphosized into a much darker, much grittier world, but right before my eyes, because you guys have been working your butts off, and now I get to contribute with at least what I'll be contributing with the film is a very aggressive redesign of Joe's look, his armor configuration, the type of clothing that he'll be wearing, interactions, and definitely between other villains, doing prop work for a very large creature that he'll eventually fight, and doing base core straight to prototype character development on an already amazing existing idea.
Awesome. Jensen, you got anything else? All right, sir. And last question, just for fun. What are some of your favorite video games and or films?
Video games right out the gate: Doom, Deus Ex, Skyrim, Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 2. The original Super Mario Brothers, because you die a lot. Films, anything that Ridley Scott has ever made, anything that Stanley Kubrick has ever made. I'm a science fiction junkie. I like Grindhouse just as much as I like Pro-Produced. I mean, I like gritty, but I also like noir. I like uplifting, but at the same, I always like being challenged. And so the biggest films that stand out to me are films that I ask questions about when I leave the theater, like Blade Runner, Prometheus, Alien, Terminator. Some of the first ideals that, what if a computer came alive? What if it became sentient? I mean, just a simple idea of some robot that's sent back in the future to kill
Yeah.
That sent me on a creative spiral that obviously becomes amalgamized in the props that we use and the stuff that we see. So, yeah, James Cameron's definitely up there. George Lucas, of course, because he illustrated a lot of my early childhood dreams of what it would be like for space travel. It would be a gritty, dark cowboy universe on other planets, gunslingers and bounty hunters, and it translated well. So Star Wars is definitely among my favorites. I'm now a Trekkie, thanks to J.J. Abrams. So that's a whole universe I've yet to delve into, and a recent Whovian as well.
Really?
Doctor Who is sonic screwdrivers and Daleks have not, and pronouncing Dalek properly. That I was calling them Daleks for the longest time, and one of the cats in the shop, from across the shop, I called him a Dalek, and he shut the shop down. He was like, "No, it's Dalek," and I curled up in a ball in the corner for a little while. Pop culture is pretty passionate nowadays. But yeah, science fiction, if it's got Grindhouse, it's a splatter film. Oh, Sam Raimi too. Oh, shoot.
Awesome.